Hello everyone, welcome back to the Maker's Gonna Learn YouTube channel. In this video, I'm gonna be teaching you all how to take Cricut basswood and make an oversized wooden sign. Now, this can be a sign with a name that can go over a baby's crib or in your child's bedroom. You can make it a last name to be a decorative piece in your home. There are so many different ways that you can go with this. I am actually going to be making this sign today for Ruby's Little Play Coffee Company. So that is what we're going to be doing. The results are absolutely amazing and I really think you're going to enjoy this. So let's go overhead and talk about the supplies that you're going to need. Let me start off by saying this project is for our friends that have a Maker or a Maker 3, and that is because you are going to need a Cricut knife blade to complete this project. We are going to be cutting Cricut basswood, specifically the 1.6 millimeter basswood. So you are going to have a Cricut knife blade or have a machine that has the ability to use an adaptive tool for this project. Next up, we have the Cricut basswood. This is a great material to use if you are wanting to create wooden projects. We love using Cricut basswood, but with the Cricut basswood, you are going to have a strong grip mat because this is a very thick material. But on top of the strong grip mat, you're also going to need painter's tape, and that is to tape your material down when your knife blade is cutting. There's actually a couple things we're going to be using the painter's tape for. So painter's tape is very, very important for this project. Masking tape, painter's tape, either one will work. We just prefer the Scotch Blue painter's tape. Next up, you are going to need some type of super glue. We love using the DAP Rapid Fuse because it truly only takes about 30 seconds for this to hold our project together. Now, something that we don't have on the table that you may want to have is some wood filler just to fill in your seams if you need it. If not, I think the DAP will do just fine. And then finally, I do have a sanding block, and this is to sand your letters once they are cut by your machine, and a true control knife because you are going to be cutting your tape and it's going to just come in really handy. So here in Design Space, you can see we have our Little Babes Coffee Co. already sized here, but I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to do that from start to finish. The two fonts that we're going to be using is Vintage Jeans, and then this one is Fierce Sights. These are Maker's Gonna Learn fonts, and I'm going to show you how we can download those into Design Space. And on top of that, if you are not a Maker's Gonna Learn member, you can sign up for free, grab your free trial to our website. We are a membership site where we bring you thousands of cut files, hundreds of fonts, and new fonts and cut files every month, as well as inspiration, education, and motivation to get your Cricut out and start learning how to use it. Now, the two fonts that we're going to be using is Fierce Sights. So all we have to do is type in Fierce. This is the one here. To download the font, what we're going to do is click that arrow pointing down. And the next one is Vintage Jeans. So we're just going to search for this one as well. And then once again, to download, you are going to click the arrow pointing down. Now, one thing I want to make clear with this project, you do have to have a font that is thicker. Now, Vintage Jeans is not super thick, but it is thick enough that we can make it work. And it's really going to depend on what type or what your sign is going to say. So if we go back to our fonts, I'll give you some examples of what fonts will work and what fonts will not. So if you want all of your letters to be together, obviously a font like this that is not a cursive font is not going to work. It will work, but you're going to have to place every letter separately. If you want a cursive font, I will show you. Let's go to our styles and we will go to hand lettered because a lot of hand lettered is cursive fonts. So some examples of some good fonts to use and not good fonts. First of all, Willpower. I love this font by itself. For this project, this font will not work. It is a very thin font and it's just not going to be one that works very well. Now, coming on down, Joyful has areas that are very thick. It does have thinner areas, but it does have very thick areas. This one would be a perfect font for this. Max Patch, even better. So, Betty B, absolutely not. So the font that you choose for this project does matter. Once again, you need to choose something that has a thicker area to work with rather than something that is skinny all the way through. Tulip, way too skinny, up in the air, definitely could work. So once you have chosen your fonts and you've downloaded them onto your computer, we're going to come up here to the right hand side. We are going to unzip both of our fonts. That was our first one. Unzip our second one. Once those are unzipped, we're going to double click them, install them onto our computer, and then from there, once you have them installed, we're going to go back to Design Space. If you are working on something, make sure that you save your project, and then for Design Space to recognize the new fonts that you've uploaded onto your computer, you're going to go to View and reload Design Space. We're going to save our project, and then what's going to happen is it is going to now recognize all of those new fonts that you have downloaded. So once we have reloaded, what we are going to do is we are going to start typing out our words. So I'm going to, let's just go ahead and we're just going to hide all of this and we will start from the beginning. Now, you may be wondering, Lauren, what is that square right there? That is very important. I will get to that. Let's kind of scoot over to the side and let's start adding our fonts and our words. So we're going to grab a text box. I'm going to go to our system fonts. Our first one was Vintage Jeans. Here we are going to make it pretty large, and then we are going to type in Little Babes. Leave it like that for right now. Another text box. We are going over to Fierce Sights for this one, and this one is going to say Coffee Co. And then bring that down and size that up as well. That is a little large. So you need to measure the area that you are working with. For example, if I wanted to put something, which of course this is not a good representation because we do have these lines on this board, but let's just say I wanted to put something that would fit all the way across. You need to measure that area. So let's just say, for example, this was the area. We're looking at about 35 inches, and then you want to know about how tall you want it to be. So let's say, 35 by 12 may be what you're looking at. So what you're going to do, you'll go back into Design Space. Here you can see we're right around 21 inches in length right here. So we need to, if we were wanting to fit it within the 35, you would scale it up and then scale up your other as well. Now, it is going to be, the next step is very important. Remember I said that this was important, that we needed to bring this in and really double check that. This is because this 6 by 12 square is a representation of our 6 by 12 piece of basswood. Now, if you can find the thick Cricut basswood in larger than 6 by 12, then obviously you have more room to work with. But for this, certain parts of certain fonts will have to fit within the 6 by 12. For example, this L probably just needs to be by itself, and when we zoom in, we see that the L is not going to fit on that 6 by 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to size it down just enough so that that L will fit on the 6 by 12 piece of basswood. And you're probably going to have to zoom in a little more. Now, right now, my eye is within that space. That's okay. I'm going to show you how we can fix that. But I would probably size it down just a little bit more to be on the safe side, and I think that will work. Okay, now let's zoom back out. I want to double check my B as well, so I'm going to bring this over. My B fits perfectly within the 6 by 12, so we have our little babes sized how we want it, how large we want it. And now you want to size your coffee co to fit the same. Once you have done that, we are going to pull the coffee co down, and I'm going to come back up here, double click this, and I'm going to separate the second half of the word little from the L, also separate from the B, and I'll have to zoom out some more. And this is very important. And then separate the B from babes. Okay, so it's going to look like this. Just bear with me. From this portion, we are going to go to advanced and ungroup to lines. So now we have the L, the second half of little, the B by itself for babes, and here. But they are all the same size font. And that is why we size it before we ungroup to lines. Very important. So our L we know is going to fit on our 6 by 12 piece of basswood. Our B is going to fit as well. And then Coffee Co, what I would do, and I'll show you exactly what I would do to that later, but we also know that all of those letters will fit somehow on there as well. So the next part is we have to figure out how to fit little babes on here. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to separate your words. Now, this one in particular, I actually could fit these if I rotated this 90 degrees. These will fit on this 6 by 12 piece of basswood. But if you run into an issue where it doesn't fit on the 6 by 12, I want to show you how you need to separate your lettering. So, and this is why it is very, very important for you to have a thicker font. So I'm going to zoom in, and we can see that probably need to separate this between the T and the L. But like, I don't want this part of the L out by itself. I want the L and the E to be attached together, but I also want to slice it in a thicker area of the font. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this just a little bit, bring it over, and here you can see that if I slice this here, the L and the E will stay together, right? And then the ITT over here, plus a little bit of the L, will also be together. So before I slice it, I'm going to duplicate this rectangle over here, and then I'm going to select both of these and slice. Okay? So we need to get rid of that, and then this is over here. So what's going to happen is when the basswood is cut, it's going to cut this, and then it's going to cut this as well. And then we can come back in and wood glue these back together. Okay, so that is why it is important for you to choose a thicker font. Now, like I said earlier, I could very easily take the easy route with this, rotate this 90 degrees, and you can see that this half of the word, it actually fits on the 6 by 12 piece of basswood. So like I said, if your font fits, great, you can do it that way. If it doesn't, this is how you want to slice it, and I'm going to show you how to reattach it later on. So again, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it with the babes portion. So I'm just going to fit it here. You can zoom in, have it sliced at an area that is, you know, a pretty decent area to slice at. You never want to slice something like that where you're cutting off this portion of the A or the E. You want to slice at a junction of your text like that, and then come in here and select them both and slice. From there, you can get rid of your other unwanted sections, and you have all of your words separated where they need to be, but can still attach. And here you can see we'll bring the B back in for babes. We'll bring the L back in for little, and you can see it still lines up beautifully. Now, if you do decide to cut a non-script or a non-cursive font like this where none of the letters are touching, my best advice to you is to go ahead and go to Advanced. Once you have your sizing correct, and ungroup to letters. What this is going to do is it's going to allow you to really move and manipulate your letters around to get the most out of the area that you are working on. Once you have done all of that, you are ready to go to make it. Once you have hit make it, normally you can change your material size. There is not a 12 by 6 that you can change it to, but we know that we have to fit this within the 6 by 12 area. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually going to select both of these. I'm gonna move these to mat 2 for the time being because I don't want them on this first mat. And I am going to go back to mat 1. I'm gonna move this one as well to mat 2. And I'm just going to start cutting the letters that I know that I need, which is 2 O's and 2 F's. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I did already cut a good majority of this because it does take so long. But what I did is, for example, this is an O and I also need that O. I'm gonna move those back to the first one. So what I did is I manipulated all of my letters. For example, I moved this F like down. You can do this and make them fit better that way if you want to. But I moved as many things as I could to the mat to cut. So if I needed to cut again, I could go back to 2. And let's say I needed to cut the second half of the ES in the babes. I can move this back to 1 and just make sure that it fits within the 6-inch mark, which you can see here it does. It's all about manipulation of your layers. So we can fit this in here, and let's say if we need to go back, you know, you can grab the E's, whatever, but you are going to cut all of the words. And what I did is I kept moving them back and forth to mat 1. And once I was done cutting, I would move everything here to mat 2 and what I needed to mat 1. So that is just how I worked around that. Because there is not a 6 by 12 material size, you all can make it work however you want. I'm gonna move this one back to 2 because I do not need to cut it. And then from here, we are going to cut the rest of the sign that we need. So what I'm doing is I'm laying my basswood down on my mat, and before I send it to my machine, I'm going to make sure that I add my painter's tape to make sure it stays down. Now this is some pretty thick painter's tape. I would highly suggest getting the thinner painter's tape. This is just what we have. So I'm just gonna make sure that this gets taped down really well. And then if it is over a little bit on your mat, you can either trim it off or you can fold it over to trim it off. You can just take your True Control knife and run it along the edge of your mat right here, cutting the excess off. But you do want to make sure you tape all the way around, sides and the top and the bottom. Once you have done that and it is taped down really well, what we are going to do over here in our machine, we are going to take our fine point blade out, and we're going to go ahead and add in our knife blade because we know that we're going to need our knife blade for this. And then in Design Space, I'm going to hit Continue, Browse Material, and I'm going to search basswood, and we are using the 1.6 millimeter or the 1/16 of an inch thick. We're going to select done. It is going to prompt you to use your knife blade, and then over here we're also going to have to move our star wheels all the way over to the side, because the star wheels are going to snag on that basswood if they are where it is going to be going through your machine. Once we have done that, we are going to load in our mat and then press the flashing Cricut button. Now, just a reminder, this does have a very long cut time, and we're only cutting 2 O's, 2 F's, and a little period. So keep that in mind. If you have a lot more on your mat to cut, it is going to have quite a long cut time. Currently, we are looking at 13 minutes for that to finish cutting. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and go overhead and let me show you exactly how to place your letters together. So here you can see we have our little babes separated exactly where we sliced it in Design Space, and I'm going to show you exactly how to place these back together so that we can hang them on the wall. First thing you're going to want to do is grab some tape. Now, I'm just going to use painter's tape today because I feel like it's going to give me the best results and just hold it in place, and really that's all we're looking at this to do, is just be a placeholder for us. So I'm just going to lay that down here, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my second half of my letters, and I'm going to line it up here on the tape so that it fits together. Now, after I've done that, I'm just going to come in with my True Control knife, and I'm going to cut the excess of this tape like that. Cut that there, and then cut down here. Now, if you want to, you can come back in here and trim this up a lot better. I'm actually going to be taking this tape off in a little after I glue it anyway, tomorrow after it completely dries. So it's not that big of a deal. You just want it to hold it together and be able to bend and open up. So once again, I'll show you, and I'll just take a piece of this tape here that I had extra from the top portion. We're going to do the same thing with the babes. We're going to lay that down, and then we are going to place the B and the E together, line it up, and then we're just going to cut this excess here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to add some DAP glue on this seam. And our DAP glue is, the lid is glued shut, so I'm gonna take a weeding tool. Y'all know us around here, work smarter, not harder, waste not, want not. So I'm not wasting this DAP glue. I'm just taking it and running it along this seam. And then I'm going to hold it together. Yes, there is some excess glue here, but we're just gonna wipe that off. And this is a fast drying glue, so we don't have to sit and wait. We just have to sit and hold this together, and it will hold. What I love about this glue so much is that it really does hold in about 30 seconds or so. You should be able to let go and then let it finish curing. And you can see it held pretty well already. So we're just gonna let that sit and let that cure some more, and then we can come back in and sand that off. So now we're gonna do the same thing to this bottom portion. Just gonna grab some, run it along here. Now you don't have to use DAP glue. You can use super glue. I have used Gorilla super glue before. That has worked really well. So once again, not with your finger. Do not spread this glue with your finger. Use a paper towel and hold it together for about 30 seconds. Once your glue has dried, you may just want to come back in here with a sanding block and just sand that off, because when we go to add paint, we're definitely going to want this area sanded pretty well. Y'all, what do you think? This is such a fun project, and I love how I can take one big word and slice it up into more digestible pieces and then put it back together so that we can make a beautiful piece of wall art. If you plan on recreating this, drop me in the comments what you plan on doing. And if you're new here, make sure you hit that thumbs up on this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell notification so that you can get notified every time we get crafty. Not only that, if you want to recreate this and use the fonts that we use today, make sure you click that first link down below. We have a free 7-day trial for you guys where you get 20+ downloads from our website. You get to try us out for free. You can determine whether we are the right fit for you, but I really think that once you get in there, you're going to absolutely love it. I mean, what do you have to waste? It's free, right? Make sure you click that link down below. Check us out, free for 7 days. And once again, let me know what you plan on making with your Cricut knife blade and basswood. I will see you guys in the next one.